What's going on with Bryce Harper's power outage? Is Max Scherzer officially washed up? Join us today where we provide you with the best players to trade for and away on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Arnett.
Yo.
You can find us on all social media platforms and podcasting apps. If you're listening on one like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. It helps to grow the outreach of the podcast, and it's just a big help to us in general. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below to subscribe to the channel. Also gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, please subscribe to us on the Subtext website. It's a more personalized one-on-one conversation with Matt and I direct to your cell phone, and we give major updates and alerts as far as injuries, prospect call-ups, and a few extra guys, that we talk about on every episode. Also, real quick, swing for the fences on sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for more details. And Locked On Fantasy Baseball fans, as always, we have a fully loaded episode for you today. Let us be your team secret weapon as we provide you with the best players to trade for and away going into this upcoming All-Star break. So, Matt, as always, that's a little bit much for me there, brother. Why don't you take the wheel? Who do we got up first?
All right. Well, let's start off with Mr. Bryce Harper. I mean, Harper has been hitting the ball. I'll tell you that. He's actually spraying the ball across the whole field and not really doing bad at all whatsoever. But his power seems to be zapped. But I just feel like, hey, it's one of those things where he just doesn't need to swing for the fences right now. And I think that that's soon to come. Maybe he's just trying to get himself situated with, the new elbow and whatnot. But my guy really hasn't had a home run in about a month, and that's within 91 at-bats. But he's batting about 297. He has 12 runs, 15 ribs, and 2 stolen bases. Again, he's not playing bad, but he's just not doing Bryce Harper-y things where, he's going to go and get you 30 to 35 bombs and things like that, even though physically impossible at this point in the season for him to go and go crazy like that. But if he could hit from the second half on 15 home runs to 20 home runs, I foresee that being possible for Harper if they really turn it on for him. Maybe there's a certain angle in his swing he's getting approved to do because he's not even approved to throw. So there's probably a lot of stuff on the underbelly that we don't know about Bryce Harper and the injury and his return from it. So with that being said, I think Bryce Harper is a great trade target. It's going to take a lot to get him off somebody's hands. I'm not even going to lie or play this, real late. But, if you see a team that has Bryce Harper that's struggling and getting home runs, that's, struggling in general, you might be able to scoop them up and trade away with some of these names we have later. Possibly even trade a young rookie like Young or somebody of the sort like that to get the massive upgrade of Harper and, be able to sacrifice somebody like Young to that providing power at the moment that we don't know what that future looks like. So Young is a great trade away target for Harper specifically.
Yeah, Matt, that's a very, very good take. I'm on board with that. I'd even, like you mentioned, if there's a team that's struggling with power that has Harper, and you have like a Jorge Soler or a Max Muncy, I would start a trade talk with those guys, throw that towards the Bryce Harper owner, see what they have to say about that. Because let's not forget, unless it's a keeper or a dynasty league, Bryce Harper was going super, super late in drafts this year. So, the owner may have gotten a bargain on him on draft day, and they could afford to possibly move him because Bryce Harper might not be one of the best players on their team. But once again, let's let's also not forget that Bryce Harper's original return date was supposed to be after the All-Star break, maybe even August. So Bryce Harper currently is up to 52 games played and 195 at-bats. So we weren't even really expecting him to, be playing until a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now. So there's that build-up, from major surgery that he's coming off of. Let's see where things go. As Matt mentioned, maybe he's not, swinging his normal way because, he doesn't want to hurt himself. But once he, gets back into the groove of things, let's see where it goes with Bryce Harper. I expect him to, that power to surge to come sooner than later. But you know what? Great trade target right now for Bryce Harper. It's definitely a buy low opportunity, and definitely go out there and give it a shot. Let's move on to another elite talent that's kind of underperforming so far, and it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, with Vladdy, the numbers don't look horrible, but they're not, what you expected coming into the year from, a guy that of Vlad's caliber. So far on the year here, Vladdy has only 13 home runs, 39 runs, 54 RBIs, 277 batting average, and he's chipped in 4 steals as well. So it's not great, it's not horrible, but I think maybe the Vladdy owners may be a little bit disappointed. That's when you swoop in there, at the All-Star break and say, hey, let me find where I can upgrade my team. First base hasn't been great right now. This year is only the top few guys and then kind of everybody else. I just think the window's there right now on Vladdy. You might have to pay up a little bit more for him than a Harper, but if you can go out there and get it done, especially maybe in like a dynasty league, a keeper league where, Vladdy his value is a little bit lower than where it stood a couple years back when he had that, monster 48 home run season with 311 batting average year. I think, still only 24 years old for Vladdy. So don't forget, this guy's got, 10 more years ahead of him of being a great Major League Baseball player. I just think the opportunity's out there right now while the batting average is at 277 and he's only got 13 home runs headed into the All-Star break. There's a few days left here, so it could hit a couple more, but still 13 at this point through 83 games, 321 at-bats. We usually expect a little bit more from Vladdy. I think it's a good buy low opportunity right now. Once again, probably got to pay up a little bit, but I think it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to get Vladdy off somebody's hands in any league because of what they paid for him in a first-round talent. Like, you're going to have to give up somebody because it's not like he's playing atrocious. Like, he is performing. He's just not hitting the home runs. But he's definitely worth taking a shot on. Like, I mean, quite honestly, like, how do I put this? Like, I guess, like, you could even go out there and, let's see here, who I got on my team I would be willing to move. Like, Jose Ramirez, for instance, like if you have an extra third baseman, like you're the young owner, right? I just said trade him away, but if you're the young owner, you could move Jose Ramirez, who's somewhat performing, but not doing what he normally does either, where the stolen bases are there and the home runs aren't there either. And this is for more of a team that, because you sound crazy right now, but if you look at it like this, if you're finding the stolen base situation, but you need the power and your power zapped. Like, if you're going to put a bet on anybody, you're going to put your flag on somebody, it's going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to bounce back in the second half and go off. Whereas right now, like, Jose Ramirez has about, 14, 15 home runs left in him before he hits what he did last year. So, and he has 13 and a half. So, I mean, if he doubles it or gets to 30, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think the stolen bases are really there. He's going to have 20. Like, it is what it is. If you have other guys stealing bases on your team, like, I'm willing to move Jose Ramirez. Plus, the Guardians team isn't really looking so hot either. So the runs and ribbies may be down this year just for, Jose in general. But other than that, I mean, there's other people I'd probably move as well. Like, I mean, wow. You could try and see if you can move like a Jordan Walker, try and sell the name because, I mean, I love him. But Jordan Walker also isn't doing what we thought he was doing in the beginning of the season. He still has a lot of, sex appeal in terms of trade categories. So, you could probably, move him on for that and somebody else and see what you can get and see. It's going to take more than just Jordan Walker, but you're going to have to package him and it would entice somebody to move on. But before we move on here, Dom has some great people to talk about.
Yeah. And before I do that, guys, don't head anywhere yet because we have one of the Mets aces that we're going to talk about. We got a pitcher from the White Sox here that, hey, what do you do with him? And then we got a couple of young bats coming up here that, kind of have been overperforming. Do you sell high? Do you hold? Find out coming up next. But real quick, guys, Sleeper is a fantasy sports and real money gaming app focused on bringing people together through sports and gaming. Sleeper has become the fastest officially growing fantasy platform in the world with over 5 million active users in 2022. At Sleeper, it's not just about sports, it's about building personal connections and lasting memories. Sleeper Picks is our real money product that connects friends over picks. Choose from 2 to 8 of your favorite players from pregame, live, or even across different sports. Pick higher or lower than predicted stats. Only Sleeper can get you up to 100 times payout. Share with your friends and get rewarded together. Use the promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And guys, Sleeper is one that Matt and I actually use fairly often. We're very, very big on it. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can bet, a lot of different ways you can win money. So check it out today. But everydayers and new listeners, we've got exciting news for you regarding our podcast. Matt and I are thrilled to introduce our new campaign on the Subtext website, where we'll be offering a personalized and in-depth experience just for you. By subscribing to Locked On Fantasy Baseball on the Subtext website and becoming a member of the exclusive Everydayers Diamond Club, you'll gain unlimited direct access to us through one-on-one texting conversations. As a part of the Diamond Club, you'll receive instant alerts and expert opinions on prospect call-ups and injuries, and also detailed waiver wire recommendations. But that's not all. We'll also be promptly answering all your fantasy baseball questions, and we're here for you to talk baseball 24/7. Subscribing to our Subtext service will give you a significant advantage over your competition and greatly increase your chances of winning an Everydayers championship. You can find a link to subscribe on the description of this video, podcast, or on our link tree, which is available in all of our social media bios. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Sign up now for a free 14-day trial with Matt and I by your side. We'll help you bring home that coveted Everydayers championship. Join us on Subtext today. But, Matt, that's a lot of talking for me here. Do you want to grab this next guy?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about Mr. Max Scherzer. Max has been not looking so hot, and quite honestly, I'm a little upset, being that I have Max in a few leagues. But I mean, in other leagues, I am trying to go out and get him. Hence, why he's brought up on this show. You know, this is your selling point here. Out of the last 6 games, he's had 3 games with an ERA over 6, and one of those games being 16, and then 3 really good games against Milwaukee, Philly, and Houston. And the other 3 bad games against Arizona, Yankees, and Atlanta. So Scherzer's a great buy low candidate because he hasn't had a strong season. He hasn't looked like the Max Scherzer of old. So you can go out there and you could probably try and get him on somewhat of a discount. I don't know exactly what I'd be willing to give up for Scherzer. I've been trying to figure out how I can go and snag him from certain owners. I think like probably a couple guys we'll talk about later, but it's really, this one's going to be a matter of breaking down the individual's team. Look at what they're missing. Look at what they need to add to their team and see if you can fill that hole. It's going to take probably about like 2 players to get that job done. But what I always love is the 2-for-1 deals. When I'm going out and I'm getting the better player in the deal. So like, I don't mind giving up 2 players for 1 really good player. It's very rare. I'll take a deal where I'm getting 2 players and I'm giving up 1. You know, if I'm doing that, then, you know, it has to be a real deal for me. But ultimately, Max Scherzer, I think, is worth it. The second half is going to be probably where he gets right. You know, he'll figure out his stuff, work on a couple things. I'm sure the Mets pitching coach has a lot to say about him. So I'm sure that things are going to be course corrected real soon, and that second half is going to be great for Max Scherzer. Hence why I'm telling you to trade for him.
Yeah, Matt, that's a great take on Scherzer. I'm just going to add a quick 2 cents, and we'll keep it pushing here because I agree with you on pretty much everything. Great buy low candidate in Scherzer right now. The thing with Scherzer is everything looks pretty good except for the ERA. You know, the strikeouts look good, 94 and 82 innings. The whip is okay at a 1.19, not the usual Scherzer sub 1 whip or a very low 1 whip, you know, but he's getting a little bit older. Control has been a little bit iffy this year, you know, with as far as giving up hits. You know, the walks total is pretty good, only 20 walks on the season, but it's 79 hits. Scherzer was a little bit banged up at the beginning of the year. You know, maybe he's still, you know, as you get older, the tougher it is to become, get back from those injuries, as Matt and I can attest to, as we're getting older ourselves here. But 38 years old for Scherzer, I think he figures it out in the second half. I think, he'll get to that normal sub-3 whip. Well, not sub-3, maybe like sub-4 whip, maybe like a low-3 ERA. But you know what, man? I think Scherzer's just a great buy low candidate. Let's keep things pushing here. Let's talk about our next guy, San Diego Padres, Darvish. And Darvish is another guy kind of just not really looking like himself this year. Darvish so far on the year has a 4.84 ERA, a 1.23 whip, 80 innings, 85 Ks. The thing with Darvish is, if you're familiar with him, he is kind of a second half guy. He had that monster second half a few years back with the Cubs. I think it was either his last year with the Cubs or his second to yet last year with the Cubs, where he started off the year horrendous, had a huge ERA, not a lot of strikeouts. And during the second half that year, he was literally the best pitcher in all of baseball. So I think we cut Darvish a little bit of slack. His repertoire is amazing. He has about 5-6 different pitches that are all plus pitches that he throws very well. So, let's cut the guy a little bit of slack and let's just kind of see where things go with Darvish. Right now, the last 3 starts, last 4 out of 5 starts have been pretty bad for him. So, let's ride in there. I'm not giving up a crazy amount for Darvish, but if you can get him on the cheap, or, his ownership percentage is down over the last week. If he was dropped in your league, playing the shower league, definitely pick him up. Let's see where things go with Darvish. I still think he has a good second half in him.
Yeah, he's somebody who might be able to sneak into a trade to get the deal done if you're looking to move somebody of a sell high candidate or somebody that are middling that you need to fill some holes, and maybe this is the person that'll make you feel better about a deal if that person is has Darvish, of course. Let's move on. Great take, Dom. I'm not going to sit here and rattle on about him. Let's talk about Mr. Lance Lynn. This is like my how do I put this? Like I'm torn about this. Like I kind of want to go out there and get Lance Lynn and see what he could do in the second half. But I'm not being aggressive about him. But somebody might be able to. You might be able to get him for like I don't know, a below pop. So you might be able to see what you can do and see if you can just get him thrown in at the end of a trade, or even go out there and just see what you can get if you're struggling in pitching and you need some kind of bright side. Lance Lynn is somebody you might want to just throw out there and see if you can get, because quite honestly, he has shown a little bit of promise, especially with that 16K game, a few weeks ago. He's like there, kind of like the strikeouts are there. Like he has 116 to 96 strikeouts. Like that's the part that's really key for me, and the 5 wins. But like the ERA and WHIP is extremely high. But what I could say is this: Lance Lynn is an elite pitcher. This is the first time we've seen the other shoe drop, but I don't know if this is going to be the end of his story where like this is the complete downfall of Lance Lynn and he goes out in a blaze of fire off a cliff, or if Lance Lynn is back. Lance Lynn turns it around and kind of finishes on a high note for the season. We shall see. But before I let Dom give you his take, we have, a bunch of young dudes we think you should sell high on that are really performing now, from, the Reds to every other team on the planet. But we'll be right back after this. All right, Dom, go ahead. Give us your take.
All right. With Lance Lynn, I'm a little bit, conflicted here as well. The thing is with Lance Lynn, he is only 59% owned at the moment. So if he's out there on your waiver wire, I'm pretty sure in almost any league, unless it's like a super shallow league, you got somebody you could drop for a talent like Lance Lynn. From May 16th to May 26th, he had 3 really good starts in a row, and then he had 3 really bad starts after that. And then, as Matt mentioned, on June 18th against Seattle, he had that monster 16 strikeout and 7 inning game that he somehow took the loss in. But you know what? His last 2 starts have been underwhelming. Gave up 3 earned runs against Boston on June 24th, and then on June 29th, he gave up 5 runs against LA, the Angels, that is. And it's been tough. It's been tough. As Matt mentioned, strikeouts are there. ERA and WHIP are super high. But let's not forget, once again, like Darvish, Lynn is kind of a second half guy. Last year, he was coming off that injury in the first half, and he had a horrid first half. Second half, was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. So if Lance Lynn can bring it together, we know the upside, huge strikeouts. He may not win a huge amount of games on the White Sox team, but the ERA and whip can, get better in a flash. He's the type that could pull a Blake Snell. Let's remember where Blake Snell was after his first 5-6 starts of the season, and look where he is now. Blake Snell looking like one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Lance Lynn is a guy that can do that. I think if you can get him for super, super cheap, you go out there and make the deal. But let's move on to some sell high guys. And once again, I always like to preface this the sell high segment with this. When we're saying sell high, it's not that we don't think the guys are going to be good. It's not that we think, they're going to have a horrible second half. It's more of they're performing over their heads right now. So go ahead and maximize the value of these players to go get a player who's underperforming that's going to turn it around. Baseball is 162 games long. There's ebbs and flows to it. Once again, if you hit every 3 out of 10 balls, you hit 300, you're one of the best hitters in the league. If you hit one less ball, you're one of the worst hitters in the league. So it's a game of ups and downs. Maximize the value of these guys. But let's start off with our first name. It's Ezequiel Duran of the Texas Rangers. Now, I love Ezequiel Duran. I think the kid's got great talent. I think he's going to be good for years to come. But right now, he's performing a little bit over his head. 306 batting average on the year, 12 homers. He has 36 runs, 34 RBIs, 4 steals. I'm not sure if I mentioned that 306 batting average or not, but I'm going to say it again, 306 batting average. Guy plays second, third, short, and outfield. Now, if you can maximize that value, go out there and, include him in a Bryce Harper trade or a Vladdy trade. You definitely want to get that done. But you know what? Duran is one of those guys. Ezequiel Duran is one of those guys that, if I'm not going to get great value for him, I might hold because I do love the position eligibility and I do love what the kid can do. So Duran, definitely try and work him in a trade and see, shoot for the stars with Ezequiel Duran because he does have a lot of value at the moment. I don't think he continues at this pace for the rest of the season, though.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns surrounding Duran, but he's a great talent, like you said. So we shall see what happens. Let's move on here. Let's talk about another big name that's performing really well, and that's Spencer Steele. First, third, and outfield eligibility. Right now on Yahoo and Roto League, head-to-head, he's about the 37 player overall. Now, we all know what Steele's profile is in the minors, right? Like in 2022, the kid had 23 home runs and 427 at-bats. Like we all know the kid's got power. He can hit for average because he hit 274 that year. He's hitting 292 this year in the bigs. And, we all know what this kid could do, but the difference is, this is still the difference between minors and major league hitting, right? Pitching, right? Eventually you get figured out. All right. And then you got to wonder, how is this player going to adjust? Is it going to take the whole second half of this season where, they got his number and then, hey, he's done for the season, at least in terms of his high end production? Or does he adjust really quickly? What are you willing to take a gamble on, right? And what are you willing to miss out on to take that gamble? Because the best part about trading Spencer Steele right now, he's at the tippy top. And this is more of a redraft than dynasty and keeper leagues if he's somebody you're interested in keeping in your keeper league. Whereas this is a redraft league. I scooped him off waiver wire and I got him for free 99, right? So Spencer Steele, we could totally capitalize this. We could totally move him for, you know what? I was saying I wasn't sure who to trade for Max Scherzer. He may be a name. If they're missing out on home runs, if they're missing out on everything that Spencer Steele is doing, if they don't have a first base or third baseman, which third base has been pretty rough this year, hey, Steele may be the guy you want to move on their direction to see if you can scoop up Scherzer. There's a way to go and move Spencer Steele, especially with the way he's performing. And I don't know if this is above bar. This may be a thing that Spencer Steele does, but I'm not willing to take that gamble and miss out on my shot to upgrade somebody that has done it in the past to assure the production I'm going to get during the playoffs. Because now you have two things to focus on at this time of the year. Whether am I going to make the playoffs and what is my playoffs going to look like, right? Because I need to not only make the playoffs, but I need to win to make it to the championship and get that coveted everyday championship. So what do we do here? So right now, my best odds is upgrading to a veteran that is going to, do his thing all throughout the playoffs and all throughout the second half. So capitalize on Spencer Steele's value.
Yeah, Matt, that's a great take on Steele. I just have a quick statement on him, and then we'll keep things pushing here. But I don't believe in the batting average. I don't, the 292 batting average for Steele, I think that's over his head. Matt mentioned that 274 batting average in 2022. In 2021, in 110 games, Steele only hit 254. So, and then last year in the majors, he had 211 over 28 games. So I don't think he's going to live in that 292 area. Yeah, maybe he can hit 260, but that's a lot of downfall. That's a lot of bad weeks in a row to drop from 292 to 260. So maximize on that value while Steele's hot. Matt mentioned, you go out there and get your Scherzer, you go out there and get your Harper or Vladdy or one of these guys that we've been talking about. You can go back and watch our old trade target episodes. A lot of those things still apply from the last few weeks with those episodes, very, very good targets in those episodes as well. Or subscribe to us on Subtext and ask us all the questions you want about who you should be trading for and who you should be trading away. But that's enough on Spencer Steele. Let's move on to another Cincinnati Red, one of the guys I love. If you watch this podcast, it's one of my guys. Let's talk about Andrew Abbott. We've talked about so many young, pitchers on this podcast over the past, month, 2 months, and we told you to sell high on them, and it's kind of been, almost like a good move if you did. Yuri Perez got lit up in his last outing. Bobby Miller isn't, the pitcher he was, at the beginning when he first came up. A lot of guys that if you capitalized on us telling you to trade for them, you probably got good value on them at the time, and you probably, are sitting pretty right now because a lot of those guys have been getting lit up. But with Abbott, we know Abbott over his first, 6 starts at this point? Yeah, 6 starts, 1.21 ERA, 0.88 whip, 37 innings, 42 Ks, including that monster 12 strikeout game in his last outing with 7.2 innings against San Diego. Now, I think Andrew Abbott's going to be great. I think he's a very good starting pitcher. Is he a sub-2 starting pitcher? No, probably not. Is he a sub-9.0 whip guy? Probably not. I think that K per 9 is real because he had monster strikeout totals throughout his minor league career, and he's translating so far in the majors with his last 3 starts. All besides one of those is double-digit strikeouts. But with Abbott, if you can go out there and you get yourself Max Scherzer, you get yourself Darvish. I don't know about Lance Lynn. That's a tough one. I don't know if I'm doing Abbott for Lynn straight up, but I would definitely be interested in Scherzer or Darvish for Abbott. Just go out there, and it's just about capitalizing on the value. Abbott's value right now is through the roof. So, while he's doing what he's doing, go out there and capitalize.
Yeah, absolutely. Great take, Dom. Honestly, I don't even need to say anything on it. But yeah, let's move on here. Let's talk about Mr. Justin Steele. Somebody we've been saying for a while, you need to trade him before, he starts flopping. I truly feel he is playing well above bar, and he just keeps proving me wrong. But at the same time, there is still time for this to explode. And I'm not willing to take my chances on 1, a Cubs pitcher, and 2, Justin Steele himself. It's just one of those things. I'd much rather move on, even though he has like a 3.18 ERA. Justin Steele is just not somebody that, I keep repeating myself, but I don't feel great about him. I mean, I don't know how to say it other than that. It's funny though. We look at his FIP, he's actually pretty much on point, on par. His whip and everything's looking stellar. But you know what? A guy that I really haven't seen do this in the past, I am going to pretty much right off into the sunset and trade him as high as I can and get all the value I humanly possibly can. Because again, it's not going to be there at the end. And I'm going to stop repeating myself, and I'm just going to go because I just can't drive that home enough.
Yeah, Matt. Now I'm on board with you. I'm not a Justin Steele guy. I think he's good. I just don't think he has a 2.43 ERA. I think that comes up to like a mid-3s ERA, and I think the whip is somewhat believable. He doesn't really give up a huge amount of walks. So I think the whip, can stay fairly low. I don't think it's going to be 103 low the rest of the way. And then he's under a K per 9. So he's not going to get you. He's never really been, actually his K per 9 has actually been better in past years, but I just don't think he's that kind of pitcher anymore. I think he's looking to be more of a, just get the outs instead of strike you out kind of thing, which is probably why he's doing as good as he is. But if you remember correctly, we told you to sell high on Justin Steele when that ERA was sub 1, when the whip was sub 1. And, if you did, you probably got great value on him. I think, like I said, that ERA is going to climb. The whip is going to climb. The K per 9 is kind of going to stay where it is. So if you can go out, once again, hate to beat a dead horse, but Scherzer, Darvish, maybe not Lynn. Lynn is more of a guy, if you can get him for like dirt cheap, do it, because I'm not sure exactly where he's headed, but we'll see. We got one more last guy here, and we're going to keep it short and quick and to the point. And it's somebody that, Steele's pitching like it's kind of Kyle Hendricks-y. It's very Kyle Hendricks the way that, Steele is pitching. But Kyle Hendricks himself has actually been pretty good so far this season. 47 innings, 27 Ks, 2.64 ERA with that 0.94 whip. Now, Hendricks in his old age, I don't know if he's going to keep it up this much, but if you got some veteran guys in your league that remember Kyle Hendricks when he was out there competing for a Cy Young Award, they might be interested in him. I don't think he keeps it up the rest of the way. Just go out there and capitalize value. That's really what this whole show's about, and he's one of those guys that you can definitely get something for at the moment. Once again, Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, I mean, he's not somebody you drafted or anything, so you could feel okay dumping him. And also, too, just a heads up for everybody. This is my only point about this. I'm not going to repeat anything Dom said. He's pitching at a 2.64 ERA, but his fifth fielding independent pitching is a 3.46. So he's definitely playing above what he actually is doing. So, this is the perfect time to move on him while he has a sub-1 ERA. So move him as quick as possible. All right, Dom, take it away.
Guys, that is all for us today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Also, to our everydayers and new listeners, thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And guys, make sure you subscribe to us on Subtext. Once again, if you have specific guys that you're saying, hey, or just say, hey, send us your team and say, hey, who should I be targeting to trade? What do you think my team needs? We'll have answers for you right away. All sorts of stuff like that. Call-ups. A lot of prospects going to be coming up after that Super 2, which is, not that far away. Just all that kind of stuff. You definitely want to lock in with us on Subtext. So, if you need that link, it's in all of our social media bios. It's in the description of this episode, video, audio, wherever you're listening to us. And once again, just make sure you tune in tomorrow where we provide you with the best must-add players heading into the weekend. Until then, guys, see you.
Peace.